Assalamu alaikum my dear students. I hope all of you are fine and doing well. So in our today's video we will discuss about the process of crystallization. That what are the main steps for the process of crystallization. So here we have some pictorial view about this. In the first step, for example, we have here the impure solid and we have to remove the impurities from that solid. So how we can get the pure solid from that? First of all, we have to add the solvent in it to make a proper solution, and that solution must be saturated solution. After the formation of the saturated solution, now we have to heat the solution to remove all the solvent from it. After the removal of the solvent, we have to cool down the crystals or the solid that we gain. So here you can see that the desired compound is in the black dots and the soluble impurities are as the white blocks over there. So we have to remove these white blocks. First of all, we have to dissolve it into the solution or the solvent. Then we have to cool down that. So here we have these impurities and this is the required product. After that, we will filter the solution so that desired compound will be over the filter paper or the filtration apparatus, and the end here we have the filtrate that is having soluble impurities. After the process of the gain of the crystals, now we will dry out the crystals and they are in the pure form or without the impurities. So the first step that we can use for the process of filtration, it is a choice of the solvent. So how we can choose a better solvent? Mainly the solvent is chosen on the hit or the trial basis. So it is necessary to try the number of solvents. So we have to try the number of solvents and the solvent must be best. Now what are the main properties of the or main features of the solvent can be? So the first main is it must dissolve large amount of the substances. Large amount of substances, and we have to keep it in mind that it must dissolve different substances at its boiling point, and only small substances or small amount of substances at room temperature. So this is the first property of the solvent must be there. The next or the second property we have, it should not react chemically with the solute. It must be inert towards solute. It must not react with the solute particles. So this is the second step. And the third, it should either not dissolve the impurities. It must not dissolve the impurities, because if it get dissolve the impurities at the end, the crystals may also gain the impurities in it. So to remove it impurities from the crystal, it must not dissolve it. Next, it must be inexpensive because we are going to use it in the large quantity, so it must be inexpensive and it must be safe to use. Means it must not be dangerous or it should be easily removable. So these are the main properties that how we can choose the better solvent for the preparation of the saturated solutions. When we have just chosen the specific solvent, or we have to choose a solvent which are mostly used for the crystallization. So here we have a lot of examples of the type of good solvents. The number one solvent that we can use, it is the water. It is safe to use. The second, we can use the 95% ethanol. We can also use diethyl ether. The formula is C2H5O and C2H5 diethyl ether. We can also use acetone. We can also use the chloroform. So these are the mainly. We can use carbon tetrachloride CCl4. We can also use the acetic acid, that is CH3COOH. So these are the main solvents that are cheaper, that are safe to use, and that are inexpensive. So we can use all these solvents for the preparation of the saturated solution. After the choice of the solvent, now we have to prepare the saturated solution. So how we can prepare the saturated solution? The substance that we need to pure, it must dissolve in solvent, and we have to add that substance in the solvent. We just gain the saturated solution. Now the saturated solution is a solution. It is having no more capacity to dissolve the solute particle, no more capacity to dissolve solute particles. So that solution we called it as the saturated solution. When we have just prepared the saturated solution, now the impure solid is dissolved in the solvent. And that solid is having the solute plus impurities in it, and we have to remove these impurities. After that, we have the next step, which is the filtration. So when we are going to do the filtration, it will remove the insoluble impurities from the solution. The solution that we have prepared, it was the saturated solution. After the removal of the insoluble impurities from the saturated solution, then we have to remove the simple impurities that was soluble. Now the step after we have, it is the evaporation process. When we are going to do the evaporation, we need to heat the solution. So here we are going to do the filter. We will use the filter paper. We will pour that saturated solution. Now the insoluble impurities will be left over there in the form of residue, and we just gain the filtrate. Now that filtrate we are going to evaporate by the process of heating. Now the solvent will get removed from the solution, and we gain the crystals in this form, and these crystals are wet to somehow, and we need to dry these crystals. So the next process we have, it is the drying and decolorizing the crystals after the process of cooling. So the hot filtered solution is then cooled at the moderate temperature. After the cooling of the crystals, so when we done the cooling of crystals, the next step is collecting the crystals and drying them. So how we can collect the crystals? We can collect the crystals by the use of the gauge crucible. By the use of the gauge crucible, we can remove or collect the crystals. Now when we just gain the crystals, next step is to drying the crystals. For the drying the crystals, we will press the crystals gently under several folds of the filter paper. So filter paper. For example, here we have the filter paper, and over there we have the crystals like this. So we will just fold the filter paper over there, and we will have to press the crystals gently to remove the solvent from it. After that, alternatively, the crystals are also dried in the oven. We can also use the oven for the removal of the all the solvent from it. So we have to just heat it up to a limit, not that they started to melt. So that's why we have to heat it at moderate temperature. After heating them at moderate temperature, we will gain the crystals in the dry form. And if these crystals are having some colored impurities, we can also remove the color of the crystals. On the other hand, there is one method other for the drying process. We can use the silica gel, that is the drying agent. So we can use silica gel. It is mainly the drying agent used for this purpose. We can also use phosphorus pentaoxide. So these are the two main drying agents. For the decolorizing of the crystals, what we can use the finely powdered animal charcoal. It absorbs the colored impurities from the crystals. So to remove the color, we will use the animal charcoal, and we have to remove that color that is undesirable from the crystal. At the end, we just gain the crystals in this picture as a pure form. Now these crystals are almost 99.9% pure, and we have removed the process all the impurities by the process of crystallization. So this is all about the process of crystallization. And the next topic we will discuss about the sublimation. For that time, you guys have a good day and Allah Hafiz.